As you can tell from the title of the video, we're going over a build that revolves around the Lucky Pants exotic boots. Now honestly, this exotic has been collecting dust in my vault for I don't know how long now. It has gotten various upgrades throughout the seasons, but I've been seeing a couple clips as of recently, the past couple weeks, of how effective this can be in PvE activities and how fast it can actually shred champions, mini bosses, and even bosses as well with just a hand cannon. So let's go over its perk, a legally modded holster. This is a long one. So when you ready a fully loaded hand cannon that deals kinetic damage or a damage type that matches your subclass energy type, each hit from that hand cannon increases the damage of the next shot for a short time against a combatant. Hand cannons ready faster and are more accurate immediately after swapping to them, provides a small benefit to airborne effectiveness stat of all hand cannons while the buff is active. Now, if you didn't really catch that, here are the cliff notes. You have to have a fully loaded hand cannon to deal that extra damage, and it has to be kinetic or a damage type that matches your subclass. Now, I'm going to be going over two hand cannons that are both kinetic, so you will not have to really worry about that. Now, another thing to note is that the illegally modded holster perk does not always stay up. So if you're shooting the hand cannon, you lose the perk, you reload it, you switch a weapon, your special or your heavy, and then you switch back to the hand cannon really quickly. Again, the illegally modded holster perk will be there, but you'll also have another thing called Out of Luck. Out of Luck lasts around 8 seconds, and essentially you cannot do the extra damage with the hand cannon while Out of Luck is active. Now, before we get into the nitty gritty, let's talk about the two hand cannons that I recommend weapon-wise. So first up is the Malfeasance hand cannon. Its perk, Explosive Shadow, shoot tainted slugs that burrow into combatants. Stacking enough slugs causes them to explode, stunning surviving combatants, and is also strong against unstoppable champions, which means it can stun unstoppable champions. Also comes with corkscrew rifling, extended mag, and then heavy grip on top of Taken Predator, bonus damage against taken enemies and Gambit evaders. Again, the Taken one's kind of the more important thing here, but the one thing we do want to take account of is the magazine size. The magazine is 20, so allowing us to have that bonus damage for longer without having to reload or switch weapons is going to be very good for that damage. And honestly, Malfeasance does kind of shred, if I'm being honest. The other hand cannon I'd look into is the Crimson. Now, again, the Crimson magazine size is 24, so it does we can have some bonus damage on this weapon too. But its other perks, Band Weapon. This weapon fires at 3-round burst. Also comes with small bore, accurized rounds, and then heavy grip. But we have Cruel Remedy here. Kills with this weapon heal the wielder, and then precision kills also refill the magazine. So we have a way to heal ourselves on top of having an auto reload feature. And then the Crimson Catalyst, again, all it does is really increase the range here. But again, the main thing here is having Cruel Remedy and then also the magazine size of 24. Now let's go over what I'm using in Season of Defiance. When it comes to weapons and stuff like that, there's nothing really specific in the energy or the heavy slot. So if you want to use authorized mods Solar or Void, go for it. If you want to focus on some grenade stuff, again, I would recommend authorized mods grenades. It pretty much makes all of those mods only cost 1, and since we are going to be kind of using the grenade for the Season of Defiance build, I'd highly recommend this one. Next up, I would go with Solar Search here. Collecting a fire sprite gives you an armor charge, then flare up. Firebolt grenades apply more scorch stacks. Damaging a combatant with a firebolt grenade spawns a fire sprite near them, and then rain of firebolts, giving us 2 firebolt grenades. Now for Season of Defiance, for our abilities, first up for the super, I'm going with the Golden Gun Marksman. Summon a precision flaming pistol that disintegrates targets in solar light. Your Golden Gun deals massively increased precision damage, over-penetrates targets, and creates orbs of power on precision hits, and also benefits from being radiant. And the one cool thing with this, actually 2 cool things. First up, if you hit all 3 precision shots in a row, the damage actually stacks with the hand cannon. So it's good for just in general boss damage. And then also it benefits from kinetic weapon surge. No one really knows why, but it does. So you can do more damage with the Golden Gun General if you have kinetic weapon surge, which we will be using. I'll show that later in the armor mods. For our abilities here, I'm going with the Marksman's Dodge. Again, when you dodge, it reloads your weapon. So again, reloading the hand cannon or just any weapon in general is going to be good. You could go with Gambler's Dodge, but we're really not going to need it considering we're going to get our dodge back pretty quickly. Again, that'll come with the armor mods as well and some of the fragments. Next up, for our movement ability, I'm going triple jump, but you can use what you'd like. For the melee, highly recommend Knife Trick. Not just because you throw out 3, knives that all deal scorch damage, which again can help us cause ignitions, which can stun unstoppable champions as well. The other cool thing with this, pairing this with Knock 'em Down. So Knock 'em Down does give us a benefit to our Golden Gun Super, but also while we're radiant, final blows with our equipped throwing knife fully refund the melee energy. So if we get a kill with the throwing knife and while we're radiant, it'll automatically refund the knife like that. But you're like, David, how are we going to get radiant? Because of this fragment right here, Ember of Torches. Power melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. It does give you a -10 to discipline, but having that bonus damage just from the knife is already a plus. Plus, if you just get a kill with the knife, you become radiant, also refunds the knife, you can throw it again. So essentially, as long as you continue to get kills with the knife, you can have it pretty much forever, which is really good. Then lastly, for our abilities, we're going with the Fireball Grenade because obviously we're going to get 2 of them, increase Scorch, and also will be able to create a Fire Sprite. For our second aspect, we're going with On Your Mark here. Precision Final Blows grant you and nearby allies increased weapon handling and reload speed for a short duration, stacks up to 3 times, and then activating your class ability immediately grants maximum stacks of On Your Mark. Now, the main reason for this is because this gives 3 fragment slots, and then Knock It Down gives 2. That gives us 5 here. So for our other fragments, we're going to be taking advantage of Ember of Singeing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. Like I said, we're not really going to have an issue getting our dodge back, especially with this fragment here and with all the knives that we can potentially throw on top of the scorch that comes from the Fireball Grenade. Next up is Ember of Solace. Radiant and Restoration effects applied to you have an increased duration. So we already have the Radiant from Ember of Torches, but how are we going to get Restoration, you ask? Next, Ember of Mercy. When you revive an ally, you and other nearby allies gain Restoration. That's not the important part here, but picking up a Fire Sprite grants Restoration, and that gives us a plus 10 to our Resilience. Now, the Fire Sprite, like I mentioned, can be made from our Fireball Grenades, and again, when you pick those up, that actually gives us more grenade energy, hilariously enough. And Restoration, again, it's regeneration of health and shields that cannot be interrupted for a couple seconds there. So does help with survivability. And there's also another way we can create Fire Sprites through Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and also creates a Fire Sprite and gives us plus 10 recovery. With this Season of Defiance build, we're pretty much able to scorch, ignite targets constantly, have our abilities constantly on top of that hand cannon doing that bonus damage, which again, this is something you can absolutely abuse currently in Season of Defiance. But once Season of Defiance is over, David, what should I use? So everything that I changed around here is what I would recommend no matter what the season is. If there's somehow a benefit to this later on, I will completely redo the video. I'll do another one, an updated one, whatever you want to call it. But let's dive into what you should be using just in general once Season of Defiance is over. Super wise, I'm still going with the Golden Gun Marksman for that great DPS just with the Golden Gun. For our abilities, I switched out Marksman's Dodge for Gambler's Dodge. When I dodge near a target, I can get my melee back. And yes, I know with Knife Trick, you make you nearby allies radiant, and when you get a kill with the throwing knife while you're radiant, it fully refunds the knife. Again, Gambler's Dodge is almost just like a panic, like, again, we are going to be using this in tougher activities, so if for some reason the target doesn't die, all you have to do is dodge near a target, and you can have the knife back again. And with Ember of Singeing, as long as we scorch targets with the knife, we're going to get our Gambler's Dodge back quickly anyway. So again, that does have some synergy here. For the movement ability, I'm still going with Triple Jump, but you can use what you like. For the grenade, I did switch it out for the Healing Grenade. Again, a grenade that cures allies on impact and creates an Orb of Benevolent Solar Light, granting restoration to allies when picked up. So again, you get the benefit from it as well as your team. Like I said, it's going to be team comp here. For our aspects here, we still got Knock 'em Down, which again gives us a benefit to our Golden Gun Super on top of, like I mentioned, while you're Radiant, Final Blows with your equip, Throwing Knife, fully refund your melee energy. Then also, we're going with On Your Mark again here. Precision Final Blows grant you and nearby allies increased weapon handling and reload speed for a short duration, stacks up to 3 times. And then when you dodge, it immediately grants those maximum stacks of On Your Mark. For our fragments here, we're still going with Ember of Torches. Power melee attacks against combatants, making you and nearby allies radiant, minus 10 to discipline. And again, Radiant gives you that bonus damage and can allow you to pop anti-barrier champions. Next, Ember of Singeing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. So again, we're going to be getting that from the Knife Trick. Ember of Solace. Radiant restoration effects applied to you have an increased duration, so you will have Radiant for longer for that bonus damage, and then also the healing factor from the Healing Grenade. Next up, we still have Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a Fire Sprite, which again, if we're going to get that melee back anyway, it does help a little bit, but creating that Fire Sprite and collecting it allows us to get that Healing Grenade back even faster. So keep that in mind, and we get a plus 10 to recovery. Now for the last one, like I said, this is team comp, right? Ember of Benevolence. Applying Restoration, Cure, or Radiant to allies grants increased grenade, melee, and class ability regeneration for a short time. Again, that is another minus 10 to discipline, but anytime that you pretty much become Radiant or heal a teammate, you're getting all these bonuses to your abilities anyway. So if you're going to be doing this regardless, you might as well help your team and yourself out. Next, let's go over the armor mods that I'm using. So first up, since we are going to be mainly using our hand cannon as a way to create orbs of power, having kinetic siphon on is going to be good. Rapid kinetic weapon final blows create an orb of power. And then for team comp wise, I would highly recommend heavy ammo finder, increases the drop chance of heavy ammo on a kill. Then heavy ammo scout. When one of your ammo finder perks creates a brick of heavy ammo for you, it also creates bricks of heavy ammo for your allies. Now, again, if you wanted to switch out heavy scout for, a different siphon mod here, if you're going to be, using your energy and your heavy weapons as well, you could totally do so. It's another way you can create orbs, but again, I'd recommend Heavy Ammo Finder and Heavy Ammo Scout for the team comp. Now for our gauntlets here, we do have a couple different options. So first up, I look into Impact Induction. Causing damage with the melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. Then I also look into Focusing Strike. Again, grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a melee attack. And then lastly, Kinetic Loader. Again, this does cost 3, but it does increase the reload speed of kinetic weapons. If you're going to be using Marksman's Dodge, you dodge, you get the reload on the weapon, you really don't need Kinetic Loader, and you could potentially go with something like Heavy Handed. Again, your powered melee final blows create Orbs of Power. Like I said, if you're going to have the knife trick over and over again, you could create Orbs of Power that way as well. Now for his chest piece, honestly, rock whatever combination of reserve and resistance mods that you would like. Again, if you want to rock all resistance, go for it, but depending on what weapons you're using for your special and your heavy, for this example, I have void weapons on, so I have void reserves on. So I am going to get that increased ammo for my special and my heavy weapons, which, as we know, having more heavy and more special ammo is typically a good thing. But like I said, use whatever you want at your discretion. Now for our boots here, we are rocking double kinetic weapon surge. Again, your kinetic weapons gain a small bonus to damage while you have any armor charge. Your armor charge now decays over time. If you don't know what armor charge is, essentially when you collect an orb of power, you gain an armor charge and you have a maximum up to 3 base-wise. And with these blue mods, they actually only last 10 seconds. So if we have max armor charges, 3 of them, each lasting 10 seconds, that is 30 seconds of kinetic bonus damage that we get from these mods here. So that's pretty good. And then lastly, I'd go with something like Recuperation here. Replenishes health each time you pick up an Orb of Power, or you can replace that for something like Innervation. Reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an Orb of Power. Now on the class item here, we have a mod called Time Dilation. Your decaying armor charge has a longer duration. So that 10 seconds, like I mentioned, actually gets bumped up to 15 seconds. So with 3 seconds of armor charge, at 15 seconds each, that'll last us 45 seconds to have that kinetic bonus weapon damage if we don't pick up an Orb of Power or gain an armor charge during that time. Another mod to look into is Reaper. After using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an Orb of Power. Then lastly, I'd go with Bomber. Reduces grenade cooldown when using your class ability. Now for stats to focus on, again, we talk about this every video. Resilience is key. Having tier 10 resilience, 100 resilience gives you a 30% damage reduction in PvE. So we definitely want that. Secondly, I would look into Discipline. Discipline is tied to your grenade stat, and the faster we can have that grenade, whether it's the Fireball or the Healing Grenade, the better, obviously. And then lastly, I look into mobility. Yes, there's multiple ways for us to get our mobility back, like I mentioned previously, but mobility in and of itself is tied to the grenade class ability stat. So again, the higher the mobility stat, the faster we can get that dodge back, whether it's the marksman or the gambler's dodge. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's talk about the synergy. How exactly does this build work? Honestly, it's pretty simple. There are 2 things to focus on. The first thing is the hand cannon with the lucky pants, allowing for that really good damage with the hand cannon, and then everything else regarding the subclass and the armor mods for the second portion. So first up with the hand cannon, just note, like I mentioned, before you go into an encounter with the mini boss, a boss, a champion that you have to stun, whatever, you need to do damage to them with the hand cannon. Again, make sure the hand cannon is fully loaded before you decide you want to use the illegally modded holster perk. If the hand cannon is not fully reloaded, it will not proc to give you that bonus damage, so keep that in mind. But if you have to face a champion mini boss, you need to take the boss's health down a little bit to start the next part of an encounter. Again, with Malfeasance or Crimson, as long as it's fully loaded and you have the perk without out of luck, all you have to do is shoot that target and you will see the bonus damage pop up in the bottom left to show that the perk is working. And you can also see the damage numbers and the health bar of the enemies just absolutely get shredded. Now regarding everything with the subclass, obviously there are ways for us to gain bonus damage, healing, and all this other stuff for our team. So let's just run through it. So with Knife Trick specifically, as long as we kill a target, we're going to become Radiant from Ember of Torches. And as long as we are Radiant and we get that throwing knife kill, we will get that throwing knife fully refunded. It also scorches targets, so with Ember of Singeing, we will get our dodge back faster. So if for some reason our Knife Trick doesn't work, we don't get a kill with it, it just hits the target, we can dodge into the target with Gambler's Dodge, gain Knife Trick again, and you continue to rinse and repeat with Knife Trick there. Next up, Ember of Solace. Again, Radiant Restoration effects applied to you have that increased duration, so that bonus damage from Radiant and the potential to pop anti-barrier champions will be increased, on top of the healing grenade benefits with Restoration and Cure for you and your teammates. Like I mentioned, Ember Benevolence, as long as you apply Restoration, Cure, or Radiant to your allies, then you will get that increased grenade melee and class ability regen for a short duration, on top of every time you get a kill with Knife Trick, Again, that's going to give you even more melee energy and also creates a fire sprite that you can pick up, giving you more grenade energy from that fire sprite. Now, in regards to our armor mods, we want that kinetic weapon surge for that bonus damage, which we're going to gain by collecting orbs of power from either you or your teammates. With us, we have kinetic siphon, so if we get rapid weapon final blows with our hand cannon, again, that will create an orb of power for us, which we can collect. And once we get 3 stacks of armor charge, again, that kinetic weapon surge is going to last 45 seconds because of time dilation. We also have Reaper to create that overpower as well, but we have to dodge and then get a weapon kill, so do keep that in mind. With our helmet as well, with heavy ammo finder and scout, there's that increased chance for heavy ammo for you and your team for the composition there. On our gauntlets here, every time we get a melee hit, we also get a cooldown to our grenade and our class ability on top of kinetic reloader, allowing us to reload our hand cannon even faster, so we can have that illegally modded holster perk active, you know, just to make sure. Because again, you want that hand cannon fully reloaded. With the chest piece, again, your variety of resistance mods and reserve mods are just going to help out in general. On top of the boots having recuperation, when you pick up overpower, you will gain health back. And then also on the class item, you do have bomber, so when you do dodge, again with gambler's dodge, if you don't have the melee, you will get your melee back, but also have the cooldown to that healing grenade as well. So essentially, there really isn't a crazy setup to this build. As long as you are getting kills and making sure that hand cannon is fully reloaded to do that bonus damage, you can honestly use whatever weapons you like and play how you want to play with this build. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is my Lucky Pants Hunter build. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm going to put the dim link. I'm going to pin it right at the top so you can use exactly what I'm using for both builds, whether it's Seasons of Defiance or outside of the season. Again, if there's something you like, something you didn't like, something I could have switched around, again, let me know. I'm definitely willing to hear you out. I'm testing stuff out in this game all the time. If you like what you saw, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then turn on the bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on another build video here on the channel. If you guys didn't know, we actually stream 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. We are streaming on YouTube and or Kick, depending on what we're doing. If you want to stay updated, again, follow me on Twitter at ItsDaveTV. I'm always tweeting out when I'm streaming, when I post new videos and all that stuff. Then I also keep my Discord updated with a schedule. And again, that's where we're going to be chatting when we're doing raids, dungeons, playing PvP together, or just in general vibing out in the stream or just in the Discord in general. We do have other topics in there regarding gaming, but we also have stuff around PC tech, anime, and more. Lastly, if you didn't know, we hit YouTube Partner here on the channel, which is just freaking awesome. It's giving us access to a lot of cool benefits. One of those things being memberships. If you don't know what a membership is, it is essentially like a Twitch subscription. Again, it is another way to support me here on the channel so I can continue making this type of content for you guys. But if you would like some more details, all you have to do is press the join button, next subscribe, and that'll give you a rundown with all the emotes, the monthly badges, and other cool stuff that you can get access to. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!